So I'm delighted to have you on the show, Samantha, and you're 58 and the owner of an online sex company with your husband, a mother of 3, and you set up your online sex company in 2007. So give us a bit of a background about you. When you were younger, did you have any idea that this would be the path that you would take?
Absolutely not. I grew up in the sort of late early 70s and had the classic childhood that most people do at that time. No, and at school I also was very, very naive, and I certainly didn't have any sexual knowledge, and sex education was rubbish. And beyond a video of, which was very weird, of young children jumping into a swimming pool. This was at primary school, and they were naked. I don't even know where that came from. And a video of rabbits, and we were shown how to put a condom on. And I think that was about it, really. Oh, we had the period talk as well. So there was nothing, and I, didn't have boyfriends, and, wasn't kissed properly till I was 15. So I would say I was a late starter, made up for it ever since.
And where did you grow up? Did you go to a single sex school or a mixed school?
No. I grew up in the West Midlands and Staffordshire, and I went to the local comprehensive. I probably would have been better off going to a single sex school because I did get bullied a lot by the boys. But that was probably because I sang, and so I spoke quite nicely. And I think that was part of the bullying as well. And also the boys were just privileged and horrible. But anyway, no. And then I went to college at 16 and did a pre-nursing course with A-levels. So that's when I sort of got a taste of nursing, one morning a week, going to the local geriatric hospital and the local general hospital. And then I did my A-levels, and then I went into nurse training in Cardiff and had a great time.
Yeah. And how long were you a nurse for? What kind of nursing did you do?
I was a nurse for 13 years. I specialised in renal nursing, and I worked in renal for quite a long time and worked in the dialysis unit. And also a lot of our patients had sexual health issues. I even did my final project on the sexuality of the renal patient, but nobody was actually interested in it. And yet we had a twilight shift of young patients being dialysed, teens and people, young adults, and also the impact it had upon their sexuality and making relationships as well. But at that time, I don't think anybody was particularly open-minded to it. And then from then, I've worked generally in medicine and cared for patients with all sorts of conditions, a lot of cancer patients. And then I moved into occupational health because I love health promotion, I love preventative medicine, and I love educating people. And so I did my degree through the RCN in London and trained as an occupational health nurse. So hence my passion for educating people about their intimate health and sexual pleasure.
Yeah. And so when did that change? When did you go from nursing to deciding to set up an online sex company?
Caring for the children. They were small. We had 3 children, 2 years apart for each of them. So I had 3 children under the age of 4.5,
Wow.
which was hard work. And I tried to go back to nursing, and they make it really hard for you to return to nursing. And, it was ridiculous, just the whole training, and then they couldn't offer you the hours. And I gave up in the end, which was really sad because I really enjoyed it. And my husband was actually looking for a way to use up my tax allowance. He was trying to find some sort of job that I could do that would fit in around our children. And at that time, and he was working in banking, in IT, and at that time there were some really good brands coming to market. There was Lalo and Fun Factory. Fun Factory's German, Lalo's a Swedish brand, and they were high end, selling really beautiful, luxurious toys that were very, very well made. They were expensive. They're even more expensive now, but for the time the quality was very, very high compared to what was out there. And also then there was an organic lubricant brand that had just come to market a few years before, and their product was really good. We didn't really understand why it was so good. We just knew it had good ingredients in it. So his comment to me after a very drunken evening in a pub in Suffolk was, well, why don't we set up a sex toy company? As you do. And he carried on working for a year, and he'd be taking the orders on his burner phone and nipping to the loo, and then he'd phone them through to me, and then I would pack them up and take them down to the post office in what we called it the trolley of love. It was a bright orange shopping trolley we picked up in a supermarket in France.
That is brilliant.
It was hilarious. I used to wrap the products. We only sold one product at the time, and I used to wrap them in brown paper whilst watching Lark Rise to Camelford on a Sunday night when the kids were in bed. So, small beginnings, and lots of independent small retailers start in this way, literally at the kitchen table. We'd actually had a couple of sex toys from, I don't know, some Love Honey or somewhere, or, some sex toy retailer. And one of them was made from horrible jelly, and it gave me thrush, because jelly toys will do that to you. And the other one was a rampant rabbit, and it broke down, I think, even before I got to use it for the second time. And I hadn't really enjoyed it the first time. Again, that was made from jelly. And that was sort of our little sort of step into it years ago. So we said, well, okay, let's contact these companies. And we actually got products sent to us, and I tried them. They were beautifully packaged. They were really well made. They were beautiful silicone. A lot of them, sort of the little pebble toys didn't even look like sex toys. And then the lubricants as well. We were testing the Yes Organic lubricant and the Yes Oil-based lube. I remember at the time thinking, this feels great, because I had spent 20 years having recurrent infections, thrush, bacterial vaginosis, that's a fishy smelling discharge, cystitis, numerous UTIs, which led to vaginismus, whereby my pelvic floor muscles tightened because my body was trying to protect itself from these infections, and it made penetration feel very painful and uncomfortable. I had a diagnosis at 30, got offered stress management, but no doctor ever bothered to find out what the primary cause was. And when we set up Joe Divine, using the Yes Oil-based lube for the first week we were using it, I remember saying to Paul, I haven't had any irritation. And that light bulb moment happened. It was like, actually, I think it was the KY and Durex lubes we were using. And when we did more investigation and we spoke to Yes, our contact there, and there was a little bit of research, but not very much. And it was actually to do with the irritating ingredients. I used lube when I was 23 because I was on the oral contraceptive pill, and that causes vaginal dryness. That's why at 40, light bulb moment, oh my God, all my issues that I've had for 20 years that made me feel like I was broken were down to using these lubes that are everywhere. And the ingredients in the lubes are in the vast majority of lubes and intimate products that are out there now, and even including products on prescription, which is why I never shut up about why ingredients matter to your intimate health and sexual pleasure. Because what I've done, people think we set up Joe Divine because I had the problem, but it was actually setting up Joe Divine that I discovered the primary cause of my infections. Which is why now I think a lot of women start things because they've had an issue, and then they try and turn that issue, and it could be a horrendous experience, as mine was, into something really positive.
And so just going back a little step as well. So when you set the company up, there was a lot of like prejudice or different thoughts around sex and intimacy, particularly for women, odd for women. Did you face any negative responses from anyone?
I had one mother walked away from me at school. I didn't ever talk about it at the school gates. We had people making sarky comments, but actually a lot of people were really interested. And our market research, we'd actually had little parties and invited female friends round, mums from school, showing them some of the products. Served them chocolate truffles that I'd made, had a really good chat, and they're going, yeah, I'd buy this product because it's not in horrible packaging, it's absolutely beautiful. And so I had different groups that I would invite around, people of different ages, and it was always really, really positive. And it was really weird. The quiet ones had boxes full of stuff that they admitted to, and the really mouthy ones that you thought were probably jumping from the wardrobe were not sexually experienced at all. So that was really fascinating too. And also because Joe Divine is a platform that has hundreds of articles, sexual health and pleasure articles, I've used my knowledge, my nursing knowledge, to connect sexual health and pleasure together. They're not separate. And a lot of people struggle to understand why a vibrator could help you with your sexual health. They didn't make that connection. And I've had that with medical and healthcare professionals, had lots of doors shut in my face. I just wait for them to come to me now. I don't argue with any of them, but most people are coming around and they're being a bit more positive to the fact that, sex toys and good lubes can make such a difference to people's physical and mental well-being.
Yeah. And I suppose in 2007 also, the explosion in online marketplace has made a massive difference for women, because before that it was like dodgy Soho style shops, wasn't it, with locked closed doors and stuff, and all very furtive.
Yeah, I mean, Anne Summers has been on the high street for years, though, So there are shops as well. And yeah, you're right. And actually what happened was there was a change in the products that were coming to market, and the way in which they were packaged as well. So it was moving away from sort of the naked or semi-clad woman on the box, which puts people off. And it took a long time. It took many years for us to actually say to people, this has changed. Whenever I see people writing about that, I'm thinking, you're so uneducated. You haven't done your research, because actually if you wandered into Boots, you'd see this stuff sitting on the shelves there, and it doesn't look like what you think it looks like. But actually having an online shop, it means that people can, browse. But also we advertised in women's magazines to begin with, and we got so many orders. We had so many amazing conversations. People would cut out the coupon, send it through the post. So we were getting lots of post. Our children would input the postal orders for us. They all took turns doing that as they got older, and they got paid a little bit of money for each postal order. We got postal orders as well that people would buy at the post office. So post is very, very, very rare now. But we had conversations with women who were being persuaded to buy a sex toy for the first time, but also women who would say, I've had a hysterectomy, I've been through cancer treatment, I've had breast cancer, actually my husband's got erectile dysfunction and I'm looking to buy something for myself. And often the sexually bereaved, so people who were widowed, or maybe their partner had a health condition and they were no longer able to be intimate, and so they were grieving for the loss of their sex life. So that spawned all my articles, because I was thinking, where's all this information? And there was none of it. The NHS was rubbish, because it was all very generic, very poor lubricants recommended. Cancer charities, it was all very, very generic. There was a bit of menopause stuff, but no one ever talked about sex in menopause at all. Whenever you went to articles or looked in a book, there was very little about sex. It was just about, using lube, but nothing about what lube to use. So, it was difficult. And occasionally it still can be. What we face now is the censorship. So it was much easier in the past. People could send in the post, send in their order, they could give us a call, they could order it online. And now people can't get onto the website because internet providers automatically put adult filters in place to all adult brands, which means that people can't find you. When they go on it, they then panic going, I'm going onto a sex toy website and actually it's blocking me. People don't realise that these filters are in place. It's done there to protect children, and that's completely right, but it stops consenting adults from accessing something that they need. And also the health information, we're not just selling sex toys, we've got all the health information. Secondly, we get suppressed by Google. So 2 years ago, Google flicked a switch and all our searches went down. So if you were typing in sex and arthritis, we wouldn't come top anymore. There'd be some AI generated or some terrible article from the NHS. That's a big problem, and that's affected all of us working in this industry.
So in a way, it's almost pushing it underground again.
It's gone backwards. It has gone backwards.
You shouldn't be looking, kind of thing.
Yeah, and actually, they all say, and actually Google didn't need to do that. There were no regulations. It was just advisory. Everybody, a whole sweeping generalisation, so, and also advertising as well. So we've actually had to look at that too, because obviously, you're not allowed to advertise in certain places. And then obviously social media. So I was suspended from Instagram in 2023 with a whole swathe of people. There was about 100 of us. There was a pole dancer. She does amazing education. There were sex workers. There were art students. There were pelvic health physios. We were all suspended all on one day. And thankfully, I was working with an MP in Parliament as part of the menopause mandate, and she got their comms team, who have a direct line to Meta. It took a week to get me reinstated, and all my followers are fantastic. And I have to say, there are still accounts that were never reinstated from that time. So my account now is really quite boring, because you have to censor vagina, vulva, clitoris, anything that you're talking about. You have no idea what is going to be flagged. I had a running tap that did a reel to say, just wash your vulva with water, you don't need an intimate wash. Got flagged. Breast cancer, cervical screening tips, HIV screening. The stuff that gets flagged is really frustrating. You have no idea what can actually be censored. Cancer, a lot of people who talk about cancer, that will get censored. And it's very frustrating. We know there's a massive problem with women's health being censored, products being censored, can't be advertised, and yet we can have Viagra and all sorts of things for, male sexual function. It is a real problem, but the problem is these big companies have got a grip on this, male-led, and it, it's just really, really hard. So I would say it's got harder.
Women listening to this, the best place for them to go is your website,
Yeah.
and find access there. And just going back into the actual menopause and libido. I mean, you're actually living those life stages as you've had that company, haven't you? So you're a brilliant person to talk to about it. So you'd think on Instagram there are several very high profile women talking about their libido's gone up in the 50s. Everybody I speak to in menopause says their libido's hit the floor, and they're not necessarily worried about it. So I really want to talk about like how important is sexual intimacy for your health, mindset and longevity as well, because I think there's is it because our generation, I'm 54, have been raised in a narrative where we were taught not to really think about sex? What is it, do you think, that's causing this kind of disconnect between actually I could do without it, I don't really care? I mean, there's the hormone piece of that as well, but then there's also that mindset around, do I really care, and how important is it to kind of reconnect with your body in terms of that mindset?
Well, I think for a lot of people, it's really important. And, people do mourn the loss of their libido, but there's lots of things that impact upon libido. And I don't think people think about it. So it's not just the fact that obviously sex can be painful because of the depleting estrogen levels. And obviously vaginal estrogen can really help, and using really good irritant-free lubes like we sell, and only washing your vulva with water. No intimate washes, please. Bubble baths or bath bombs. Scented menstrual products, perfume condoms, scented toilet paper, all those things, you don't need them. So a lot of women will shy away from having intimacy because it's painful. And if sex is painful, then you're not going to feel aroused, and that's going to affect your libido. Also, their body shape, obviously your area of expertise. And I have experienced this. I had no idea about the weight gain, and it completely knocked me for six. And I had never been anybody who was overweight. I've always exercised, and suddenly this meno belly appeared, and my boobs got much bigger, and I really didn't feel like me. And I avoided looking in the mirror for 2 years. Unfortunately, we've moved to a new house 18 months ago, and we've got full length mirrors in our bedroom. So it's taken me a little while to actually look at them. And also, that was quite distressing for my husband, because we've always had a good sex life. Even though we had problems, we always found ways to be intimate beyond penetration when penetrative sex wasn't possible. And we know when we don't have sex, we get very, very irritable, and it helps us to connect as well. And we've always been a touchy-feely kissing couple as well. We hold hands on our walks, and we communicate as well. And so for me, I think the weight gain for a lot of women, that actually makes them feel like, I felt like my body had been hijacked. And I'm a work in progress, and I've still got to try and accept what has happened to me, but I work out, and my focus now is on being healthy and future proofing my whole body and my brain, for hopefully when I'm like the 95-year-old customer that we have, I hope I'm like her. So I think that has a big impact on it. And also, a lot of women have never really had good sex. The sex has always been a bit. You often talk to people who've actually had really good sex with someone else in the past, and then they've married somebody else, and the sex wasn't that great, and they reminisce back to when, oh gosh, that was really good then. Or we get people who are in new relationships, and it's the first time that they're having an orgasm, they're having great sex, and the sex was never good with their partner. So, and if you're not bothered about it, that's absolutely fine. My frustration is with those women who then talk down to other women who want to enjoy good sex. And I get really frustrated. It's fine. That's your choice. Everybody's different. And if it doesn't, you're not bothered about it, that's fine. But for those women who are seeking advice, please don't talk down to them and ridicule them and say, oh, why are you worrying about your sex life? Because I find that really frustrating. And you said, why is it important? Basically, our health brochure is given out in the NHS. It's got sex toys in it. It's got clitoral stimulators, lubes. It's got dilators, products that can help people to regain their sexual function and reclaim their sexual pleasure. So a lot of the doctors and healthcare professionals I work with said, I would prescribe it. I would prescribe regular sex and masturbation if I could. And I do mention it to patients, because we know when you regularly masturbate, use a vibrator, have sex, if the sex is good, because not all sex is good, it basically is so good for your intimate health, because, it using a vibrator, vibrations promote the blood flow to the tissues of the vulva and vagina. That promotes your natural lubrication. That helps to keep the tissues happy and hydrated. It feels pleasurable. It improves sexual sensation, which actually can disappear during or decrease during menopause. And it's so good for you. So it helps you to relax. It reduces your stress. It boosts your immunity. It helps you sleep better. Obviously, a problem in menopause. It can help with pain. I know masturbating and using a sex toy when I had really bad period pain really, really did help. And it helps you to look younger because you feel relaxed. Your whole pelvis relaxes as well. So you actually walk in a different way when you've had an orgasm because everything's relaxed. And it helps with connection. But obviously, if you're solo too, it's really important that you're doing that on a regular basis if you want to. And for men, if they regularly masturbate and ejaculate, it actually reduces their risk of having an enlarged prostate and prostate cancer because it flushes out the prostate gland as well. So, from a health point of view, it benefits your physical well-being and your mental well-being too. And it makes people feel a bit happier. So when they lose their sex life or it changes, then people actually, become very, very unhappy. So this libido, I feel like, is complicated again because some of us have still got kids at home. We've got kids at university. You might have aging parents. You are at the top of your job. You're stressed out. You might have financial worries. Look at the world at the moment. You might have housing issues. This is not conducive to you wanting to get jiggy with your partner, is it, by the end of the day? Yeah. And let alone all the menopausal symptoms, hot flushes, night sweats, the joint aches, the pains. You're just so tired.
And so what would you recommend to, someone in menopause or maybe post-menopause as a starting kit?
Okay, well, the most important thing is that you're actually using a really good irritant-free lube, as I've mentioned. This is what we sell the most of. So we sell Sutil Luxe and Sutil Rich. This is a slightly thicker formulation. This is the one I generally recommend in menopause just because it's pH balanced to the vagina. And it's made with organic and botanical ingredients that are really good for your intimate health, but also has high hyaluronic acid in it, which means you can use them as vaginal moisturizers. Like your face, you moisturize, and your body, you should be moisturizing your vagina. And also we have the S product. So there's the S water-based. The S oil-based is currently not available, but should be coming back. And also we've got Olive and Bee, which is an oil-based lube, just made from olive oil and medical-grade beeswax. Just to say about oil-based products, they do damage latex condoms. So, and also be aware that lots of vaginal estrogen creams have oils in them, vaginal moisturizers have oils in them, and oil will hang around inside the vagina and the anus for up to 24 hours. So if you're using latex condoms, there's a potential risk it can be damaged. And I know people say to me, but I'm in menopause, I can't get pregnant. Yeah, but you can still get an STI. Yeah. So again, this is, and especially with a lot more people now, having new relationships, enjoying casual sex, then this is really important that people actually do use condoms and do get themselves tested for STI. Absolutely not. The thing about vaginal estrogen is that it comes in different formulations. So I use the pessaries 5 times a week. I use vaginal moisturizer, which I haven't bought here, twice a week on other days that I'm not on. So every day I'm doing something. And I use Sutil Luxe and Olive and Bee for any sex play, and I only wash my vulva with water. I say to people, put your vaginal estrogen cream in, or your pessary, or whatever it is you're using, after you've had any sex play, after you've had your postcoital wee. The same goes for your vaginal moisturizer too, because the SVM's a little bit runny. Sutil, is watery because it's a water-based product. So pop that in after you've had your last wee before you get into bed. A little bit will run out onto your vulva, but it's just going to moisturize your vulva. So to me, I say to people, please be an ingredients detective. So you need to avoid glycerin, glycols, parabens, dyes, perfume, alcohol, glitter. I don't know why that's in lube. CBD products. We don't know what CBD does to the microbiome of your vagina. That's your friendly bacteria that keeps everything happy and keeps the pH balanced. And no brand has ever been able to provide me with the research for that. So I'm not selling any of their products until I actually get the research to say that it's actually safe and we know what it's actually doing to the microbiome. But also we've got so many products out there. We've got vulval oils. Again, they're not warning people that oil-based products destroy latex condoms. Some of these products are really expensive. We've got so many products now with menopause on the label, doctor recommended, gynecologist recommended. Ignore that. turn it over,
look at the
look at the
well.
ingredients. And if you don't know what an ingredient is, because sometimes they use different ingredient descriptions for an ingredient, and you'll Google it, you go, oh, it's glycerin. Oh, it's propylene glycol. Oh, it's a parabens. So they are very, very crafty. And we've even got products on prescription as well, which contain irritating ingredients. They also contain mineral oil and palm oil, never designed for internal use. Mineral oil is a byproduct of the petrochemical industry. It's what baby oil is. Well, you wouldn't. Don't use baby oil intimately, but most people are just going to use that as a barrier. And, this is really important because these ingredients disrupt the pH of the vagina. This can lead to bacterial vaginosis or thrush or irritation, so it's really important that you're using something that is designed for intimate use. So nothing out your kitchen and bathroom cupboards. We've had people using Sudocrem, bio oil, which is really expensive. I use it for my stretch marks in pregnancy. And they think if it's slippery, then it must be fine to moisturize with and to use as a lube. And that is absolutely not true. So do your research on your lubes. That's the thing I tell people. And obviously combine that with your vaginal estrogen, and pretty everybody can use vaginal estrogen, even people going through breast cancer treatment. And often the dose may not be high enough. So I'm on 5 pessaries a week. I mean, you start off on 2, but some of the formulations are every day. And often some people need a higher dose, which GPs often are reluctant to prescribe. They all know it's too much estrogen. Using it twice a week is the same as taking 1 HRT tablet a year. It's such a tiny dose of estrogen, and yet is
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's transformative.
Crazy.
And it's not just your vulva and vagina, it's your bladder and urethra. So it stops all that urethral irritation. It stops those UTIs, plumps up the tissues. It prevents those infections. It prevents the soreness. Just to say, though, that the vaginal estrogen creams, all of them do contain glycerin. And so if you're prone to thrush, I would say avoid them. I don't use the vaginal estrogen creams because of my history of thrush, and I'm just, I will not use anything that contains glycerin. But it's about trying stuff. And if you try a formulation, it doesn't really work for you, it doesn't suit your lifestyle, then ask to try something else. There are so many different formulations, and people can Google the GSM guidelines. There's a whole list of the formulations and the dose and how often you can take it and all the contraindications as well. So vaginal estrogen, a good lube, good moisturizer, have this intimate regime, and only wash with water. And then the other thing I would say is get yourself a simple vibrator, as I mentioned.
Any that you would recommend? And interestingly, are there any, when I was doing that article for Marie Claire, I think one of the people I interviewed was a female who'd invented a sex toy, but are there many women now in that industry inventing them, or are they still quite male-led, those sex toys?
I really don't know. There are products out there that have been invented by women, but there's some brilliant products that have been invented by men that are so innovative, like the Doxy, which is one of the most powerful massages you can use. Great for your achy muscles, but also as an intimate massager, it is really powerful. And that was invented by a man who worked in the scaffolding industry.
Right.
So that product is incredible. But, there's a male vibrator, which was invented by a great guy called Adam Lewis, which is a guy-brator, and it can be used with a flaccid or an erect penis as a masturbator, and it can stimulate an erection. But he based that on a medical device that was being used for US servicemen with spinal cord injuries. So often when you hear about these toys being invented, you go, oh, that's actually really good. And other times I'll get a toy and I go, did they actually even test this on somebody with a vulva or a vagina? You go, this doesn't work. I've got arms this long. It's going to, and also the materials as well. So, we only sell toys made from silicone, glass, metal, and ABS plastic. Yeah. So that's obviously silicone, that's ABS plastic. The glass toys are made from borosilicate glass, which is what Pyrex dishes are made from, and the metal toys are made from medical grade stainless steel, like surgical instruments are made from. These are all non-porous materials, so they are hygienic. They don't absorb anything. But products made from jelly, latex, and rubber are all highly porous. They absorb bacteria. You can't clean them properly. Right. They leach out chemicals. They perfume jelly toys to conceal the smell. And sometimes people have latex allergies as well. Yeah. And you have to be careful with toys, because obviously sometimes there's a description on them, not the toys we sell. It's not actually the material is, it's something not great for your intimate health. So if you buy from a reputable sex toy retailer, you know that you're going to get the toys that are from reputable manufacturers, and we know that they're manufactured in hygiene factories, that have got good ethical workings as well. Because this is really important. We don't sell thousands of toys. We only sell 4 lube brands. You can go onto some websites and be overwhelmed. So I always say to people, get yourself a simple bullet.
Right,
this looks like a lipstick, battery operated. Make sure it's not button batteries. That's really great. Use that on your clitoris, on nipples, up and down the shaft of a partner's penis, on a partner's clitoris. It's a really fun thing to do. Pop it in your bag when you're going travelling. Nobody know what it is. This is our own brand toy, the Joe Divine Immy, just a silicone sleeve with a little bullet. And this is given out. This is shown in the NHS. We send this to lots of healthcare professionals. It's in our health brochure. And it's a great first-time toy, but it's great for people with any sort of intimate health issue as well. And also, people who've been through sexual trauma. We work with a lot of pelvic health physios and psychosexual therapists who are helping people to regain their sexual function and to regain their sexual pleasure with whatever they've been through. And obviously rabbits. The world's moved on since the rampant rabbit available. This is made from poured silicone. It's completely flexible. It's really, really good. And this is a rabbit, but it's a snail. It's a snail one. It's a unique take on a rabbit. So basically, this is like the rabbit arm, and this is the shaft. And as you insert it, this unrolls. And so that's inside the vagina. This stays connected to the vulva, and you can work them independently all together. And they've got various different toys in this range as well, but it's a really fun toy. And also I'd say for people, we have people who have short vaginas, or they've got vaginal tightness, or they've been through cancer. This is quite short, so it means that it's a short amount of penetration as well. And there's toys that mimic oral sex, so you don't even need a partner. So let's see if I can turn this on. There we go. So obviously that's like a little tongue.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to use. I mean, there are so many different toys. The toys that came to market several years ago, and this is the toy I showed on the Davina McCall programme on Channel 4. This is the Lalo Sona 2. This is a sonic wave toy. There are air pulse toys as well. They work in a similar way. They don't vibrate, though having said that, some do have a vibration on them. But what they do is they gently tease and caress the clitoral tissue. So you pop that over your clitoris, get a good seal with a bit of water-based lube, and the toy will go quiet. And basically you turn it right down. It's got 12 levels. You start on the very lowest level and work your way up. And what it's doing, it's gently teasing and caressing the clitoral tissue. And I haven't got my model here, but what you see on the outside is the tip of the iceberg. The clitoral structure looks like a turkey wishbone. So it's got a little nub at the top and then the 2 little arms that come down here, and they sit around the vagina. And what it does, it sends a sonic wave sensation through those clitoral bulbs, and it's a slow build up. Initially you think nothing's happening, and then you think, oh my goodness, something does happen. There's different types of toys like this. I've got women having their first orgasms at 60 or 65, people who've got decreased sensation, they may have gone through cancer treatment, they may have a neurological health condition, people who have MS, or they've had a stroke, or they've got heart issues, they've got decreased sexual sensation. So these toys have really sort of, transformed orgasms around the world.
How do you think, because we're living longer, or for much longer now, do you think there'll be a new market in like sex toys for older people, or is there not really any difference in your mind?
There's absolutely no need. I've been asked about this. What toys do you recommend to older people? I said, well, the sex toys, that's what they're buying. They don't need anything different. They may have issues with manual dexterity, but lots of people do of all ages. And there are toys out there that have been created for people with disabilities, who are struggling to press the buttons. Some toys are app controlled. Some toys have bigger buttons on them. Some have handles on them. People get really creative with the toys, and and I often say, well, how old do you think you'll be when you stop having sex?
A good point as well about being single, because as we get older, it is more likely that more and more people will be single because they'll lose a partner, and the importance of continuing to enjoy sexual intimacy with yourself, not necessarily with a partner, another.
Yeah, exactly. And we enjoy sex now, why would we not want to enjoy sex in 20 years' time? You know, that's my view. And the conversations I have with a lot of my older customers are amazing. I had one lady used to educate all her nephews and nieces, and she'd buy products for them, and she was in her 80s, you know, and I just think this, because they'd always enjoyed sex, but also we've had people who are introduced to sex toys for the very first time, and they're having such a lovely time, you know. And it's sad also, we have this little catalogue that goes out with all the products as well, and it has products in it for people with a penis and prostate. But often we've had the children of somebody who has passed away phone up and go, I'm really shocked. My mother's got this catalogue. And you really don't want to say to them, actually, she was one of our best buyers, you know. Or, you know, they found something in the cupboard and they think it's disgusting. And the funniest is the lady who did bury her toy in the garden because she didn't want her children to find it when she died, and the gardener dug it up. And I thought this was a myth, and actually I've had another person told me about it because it was her friend. And we've had people who've gone into hospital, and while they've been in hospital, their daughter or son or a relative has gone in to do a bit of a clean, and they've thrown their toys away. One lady was most indignant. She was having to buy everything again. And people in care homes and residential care, you know, the really sad thing is people are actually having to hide their sexuality in these care homes.
Maybe that's kind of where we want to get to, doesn't it? So we're not having to bear embarrassment. Oh, brilliant. Well, thanks so much for a really inspiring talk and joining us on the Adventurous Ageing podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me.